Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 USA TKD US Open. I'm National Coach Barbara Brand out here on the West Coast, along with our Poomsae pal, Miyako Yerick, out on the East. Are you ready for this one, Miyako?
I'm ready. We're in episode 4, so this is the second of the 2 semifinal episodes, and we have already seen these athletes in the prelims. They made the top half into the semis, and we're going to start off with the male senior 1, followed by the male senior 2, and then finish off the night with the female senior 1 semis.
That sounds great. Hey, Miyako, let's go.
Let's go. All right, so here we go. Our first division for this episode 4 semifinals, we have the male under 30 division.
We're starting off with George Chen from Team Champions USA. So Miyako, we talked before about, whether the semifinals was going to be random or not. And in this case, it is random, correct?
That's right, because there are 2 flights of athletes from the prelim round. When they come together into the semifinal round, because they have different judges, we can't have the same score. So it is a random order here for these 16 athletes.
A lot of athletes really enjoy that random kind of seeding. So they think it's just super fair, right, to not have that presumption that the later athletes are going to have the strongest scores.
Right, and it's true for the prelims and for the semis here. They're getting this random group, but for the finals, when we get those top 8, it will be in reverse order.
Okay, so that was George Chen starting off with choreo, getting a 7.57. So we get another look at Sipchen with this group. We've seen quite a bit of Sipchen in the early episodes of the US Open, now continuing in the semifinal round. So lots to study for athletes who are learning this Poomsae or wanting to tool up on theirs.
That's right, and because this is the senior 1 division, we have a bunch of athletes just aging up from the junior division now this year. And so Shipjin, Pyeongwon are new forms for them. So some of these athletes may not be as comfortable with Shipjin if they're just entering the age division. However, George is 20, so he's been in this division a couple of years, should feel comfortable. He had some really great side kicks in choreo. So it's opening up nice and strong here for us in this division.
Real nice setup for this kick line coming forward. And as we talked about yesterday, we're looking for those kicks to hit dead center of the head, the face level or higher. So sometimes athletes, unfortunately, their kick might go off to the right or left slightly. He did a good job on that line and gets another good score, the same as the first with the 7.57. So up next, we have Brian Marr from World Champion Taekwondo in Connecticut.
Set.
Brian, like many of our athletes in the U.S., took advantage of the Summer of Poomsae and our Grand Slam, so he knows quite well how to present himself on video. His kicks were really strong on that first line.
Yeah, he's an example of a junior who came up last year, was in the senior 1 division, young but very tall, showed a lot of presence and power on screen, and had really great results in the Summer of Poomsae. He also, I think, placed 3rd in individual at the 2020 US Open in person. So had some good results early on, continuing now here, and he just officially committed to Northeastern University. So he'll be coming staying on the East Coast for college.
He gets a 7.7, nice strong start for choreo for Brian Marr.
That was a pretty straight knee there on that back stance. I know we've talked a lot about making sure here. We'll take another look. Pretty good knee there. Hip a little in, but overall, good job.
Yeah, I'm really looking to see how this senior one group is going to attack that first line, because they're used to, especially the ones that aged up, they're used to attacking that line with kumgong, really trying to have quick spins. So looking to see if their approach is going to be the same.
And we do, of course, have many countries competing in this session of the US Open. There are about 200 athletes in the senior and master group here for these episodes. And then we have 8 countries. And I believe one of our international competitors from South Korea made it into the semifinals for this group. So we'll get to see him a little later. And it's always fun, I think, to see different styles from different countries, how athletes approach movements differently, power generation differently, and lots of things for us as American athletes to work on, and especially when we're still at home for the next few months.
So Brian Marr, great score, 7.830 for Sipchin.
And Brian will finish out with a 7.765. That's a really good score, gives himself a little bit of a gap there. And our third athlete here is Casey Liu.
Casey Liu is from California and training with Just Taekwondo. He's got really high reach on that first side kick. Let's see if he matches it up. Yeah, really good reach on that. So for a lot of the athletes, challenge is going to be how much they chamber their legs. Sometimes it can look like it's swinging up, just rising.
Right, and another way that he's getting such height on that side kick is that his torso is dipping very low. So he does want to be careful not to go beyond parallel to the ground. So if you start going more than perpendicular towards that ground, that won't be good. But not a problem here for these judges because he just got a massive 8.0. And we do have a new chair for the referees this year at the US Open, which is Elda Adams, well-known Poomsae competitor, referee, athlete, sparring competitor, Olympic medalist, overall a really great person. And so we do have some different judging. We've seen the scores in this division, not this division, but in this tournament have gone up into the 8s somewhat regularly, not infrequently, maybe like other tournaments. So it's not unusual here, but always is going to be a sign of a top level athlete. Casey got good rotation there on the torso and managed to keep that knee pretty straight as he was rotating. We'll take another look here at that left knee, holding steady. And pretty low stances as well. So a really nice job there from Casey Liu on his second form. So surprising there, a bit of a drop. The accuracy did go down to a 7.67 total there. So that combined score will be a 7.835, which is still enough to keep him in first place. But that massive 8 on choreo, I think, will be one to remember.
Stop.
And here our next competitor is Chu Rok Oh from South Korea. And he is showing here with those side kicks why he was #1 out of his flight in the prelims. They had Kumgang and Taeguk 7, so we didn't get to see any side kicks from these men in the prelim round, but now here in the semis, choreo, and he had a 7-4-3 and a 7-4-6, so different set of judges, but I think given this set of judges and the score should probably be high, look at that massive monster, 8.13.
Okay, Miyako, I'm back. I fell off my chair right at about the time that Casey Liu got that 8. And it's taken me a couple seconds here to recover. And then during a second form, I was still blown away. I was like, am I in Kansas? What's happening here? That was a fantastic performance by Casey Liu and a huge reward with that 8. And I know he's probably just smile brimming from ear to ear. And then followed up by Churuk Oh's own higher than 8 score. So nothing to minimize Casey's, but wow, we're getting some big scores again. For the first 3 episodes, I think we may have had about 5 or so, right in that neighborhood, 5 altogether. And we've got 2 already in this division in the semis. So super exciting. I didn't hurt anything, by the way. I just bruised my bump a little bit.
Well, some of these sidekicks are just, it looks like the logo in the background there. The team that he's from is Taesong Taekwondo, and that's what his kick looks like. It was just straight vertical. Pretty good job centering those front kicks, too.
Really strong performance by Churuk Oh, really grounded, and I'm expecting another high score. So he received an 8.13 for his first choreo. Sipchen, again, a lot of times a little easier to get picky for the accuracy on this one. He receives a 7.84.
Right, we saw that yesterday with a different division, Churuk's combined score 7.985. That the Shipjin score tended to be a little bit lower. I think it's one of the longer forms. There's a lot of moves and the accuracy can just tend to go down a little bit. So we might see that, although Brian was able to bump his score up a little bit. So no clear pattern yet so far.
Right. This is Brandon Cho from California competing there at Eagles Taekwondo.
Brandon was 3rd in his flight from the prelims. Great side kicks here in choreo. Last year, Brandon was in the junior division, so here now as a senior, we'll get to do Shipjin for the first time in his next Poomsae.
This should be also really nice high score. Real clean performance by Brandon from choreo. So we've had an 8.0, excuse me, 8.0, 8.13, and 7.9, just right there on the border.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. We've had now, Brandon's our 5th athlete, and our lowest score is a 7.5. So we're starting with a high caliber group of men here in this male senior 1 semifinals.
We talked about the difficulty yesterday of getting that santomaki nice and even from fist to fist at the same height. Brandon a little bit low and high on the first one, but the second one much more even. So good job on that. A little shy on this dekubi here, almost there. And really nice core turn on the punches. Stay nice and low during that transition, which was really good. We had to see that lower back arch there. Just needs to tuck in those hips a little bit more. Really nice setup for this attack run here with the kicks.
was nice. I think that might have been one of the most centered front kicks that we've seen on both sides.
Yeah, really strong.
So first time doing Shipjin here makes it looks easy.
Yeah, so let's see how he does. He gets a 7-9. See if he can boost up his score a little bit. Brian Marr was able to do that. So he gets a 7.87, just a little bit of a dip. So he's going to finish up with a total score of 7.885. This is Ethan's son, also from California and training out of Eagles Taekwondo. Wow. Really great strength through those kicks.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the strongest players, I think, for this group. And he's been in this division for a couple of years now, been able to try out, you know, his style. And it is a little bit different than his teammate. We just saw Brandon Cho, also from Eagles. But Ethan just really leveling up the power here.
Yeah, it almost seems like he's double leveling up the power. You know, compared to some other athletes, he seems to have almost twice as much power as them.
And Ethan is one of our top athletes for this division. I think went 1 or 2 in the Summer of Poomsae and Grand Slam. And the highest score so far here.
8.2. So this one is going to be interesting because there's so many changes in the timing with the slow motion movements. So he's going to really have to burst out of them. There's that back knee that you were talking about, kind of a little bit angled inward. But from the slow motion moves here to then just a burst of power, that's pretty challenging. And how he does it, he stays nice and low and grounded through every step.
Yeah, all of those horse stances were really good parallel feet. I know I personally struggle with that. I have toes, you know, flare out a little bit, and he did a really good job keeping them parallel. So I'm going to go back and watch that and try and take some notes.
I think he's looking really to explode on this front line. And he does, boom, right from the floor.
And those front kicks were totally clearing his head. They were a foot above his head. Really nice showing here from Ethan's son.
And I know he's tireless, so he could have done this on the first run of his video recording. He could have done it on the 30th run. He's got the stamina and the strength to do that. So this will be fun to see. I don't imagine that he'll match that first score, right? 7.93 for the second, because it's so hard to do with Sipchin. But he has to be super happy with that 8.2. He finishes with a higher than 8 score, it's combined 8.065. So here are our standings so far. He's got a little bit of a lead there. Ethan's son over Churuk Oh from Korea, Brandon Cho, his teammate, Casey Liu from California, Brian Marr, and George Chen.
Cúp này.
Up
Chuẩn
next,
bị.
we have Ethan Lam from Kwang Trung Martial Arts Institute in Georgia.
Ưng.
Wow, he's really trying to push up too. That's always fun to see. He's really trying to find his max height.
You can tell, I think he's done a lot of runs by this point because his uniform back looks so sweaty.
Sure.
But I'm sure that helps with the sound. You know, it gives him a lot of good click in that dobok.
A little bit of pop. He used to 7.84. And on any day, 7.84, everybody would be probably jumping around the living room at this point. But it's so tense because everybody has such high scores in this round.
That's right. And of course, this is the semis. So going into the finals, only the top 8 athletes will move on. And we've talked about other athletes in this dojang here in Georgia with those poles. So we saw when he went up to the first side, one of the pole covered up part of his stance and punch. But I don't think the judges will deduct for that because you could still see his stance and foot and hand. But it's just something we have to think about when we're doing these recordings. I do have to tell you, I'm excited to have in-person events hopefully later this year. All these video recordings, I feel like I've learned a lot. Watching all these videos has really helped, but you can just spend days and hours grinding away doing takes. And I keep seeing his back of that uniform and thinking, how many takes did he do? Whereas in person, you do it once and you're done.
Hey, come now.
Right. I think the videos have been really great in raising everyone's game, and it's given everyone plenty of opportunity to, store some of these videos and look at them to help them with their training. But I know we're all ready. We're also ready to get back on the mat with each other. So he gets 7.770. And it looks like those days are coming pretty soon, right? This is William Shin from Kim's K Taekwondo in Georgia.
So.
He's fairly deceptive, and his legs are a lot longer than they appear when he first starts out. It looks pretty normal, and then he goes to throw that kick out, and it really extends. Mm-hmm. So watch this one here. It just looks like he's, very casual about it, and then all of a sudden it's whipped out there a couple of stories high.
Yeah, I think this is a good example. One of our earlier athletes, I think it was Casey, really aggressively drops his torso. But here we have William, who is able to get almost the same height, I think, but without the body movement going with it. It just looks a little bit cleaner.
Right, it's almost by the way. Hey guys, take a look at this. Boom, and it's up at the ceiling. Let's see what the judges thought. He is 7.76, so he has that nice flexibility. But in this group, it seems like power is going to be the most, the biggest factor here in the score.
So.
A little bit thin on that stance there.
Mm-hmm. I think the challenge for a lot of these athletes moving up from junior to senior is, the big change in the amount of strength that's expected. That sometimes happens from cadet to junior too, right? Cadet to junior, we see that big change as the athletic body starts to change. And then from junior to senior, there's this huge jump as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the athletes just have to be patient and work on their strength training over time. It's not something that's going to come overnight. So I see him working the limits of his body type right now, and then really looking forward to seeing what happens as he grows stronger and stronger every year. So he finishes with a 7.17. But again, if he was a junior, then he would be scoring super high in the group, right? So there's this transition here. So he gets a 7.465 for his total score. This is Christopher Pravartana from California, training with Just Taekwondo.
시작.
A little bit of a lower angle here, so those kicks look really high. But some of these hand techniques are also looking a little bit low.
I'd really like to get the referee's impression of the camera angle. And oh, is he almost out of frame there?
He got very close, but stayed in, I think.
Oh, that was good. His legs are so long. Like his kicks look very long, but it throws the rest of the environment off a little bit. So I'm wondering what the referee's take is on this. We need to do an interview, maybe.
바로.
Ask a few of them. Hey, if it factors in, or it looks great to them when it's angled up. We just need to know. And then what are the limitations of that for their eye to be able to appreciate it? So Chris gets a 7.77 on the first one, and he doesn't have like a crazy angle. We can tell a little bit, but we've seen athletes that have a huge angle on it.
Right.
And so then for me watching it kind of throws my eye off a little bit. And same thing when we see it recorded from above and down, where it has kind of the same effect on our eye. He's doing a really good job of managing his space throughout Sipchin. Looks like he had just enough room. And he was
This is
able
a
to,
big space too.
and he was able to maintain the accuracy, the distance between his feet on all those stances. So he didn't shorten anything up. He just went off the mat for a beat when he went off to his left.
Another athlete with good centered front kicks. So it's another good example of some front
Hello.
kicks on both sides that are centered on the face instead of out to the sides on the shoulders.
Yeah, he looked really strong. He's got
Drew.
good height on his side kicks and
Kenny.
choreo, and very nice centered front kicks on Sipchin. So did very well. Received a 7.73, so nice little bump for him. He finishes with a 7.75. Up next, we have Daniel Lee from Kim's Cave in Georgia.
So,
He's been, wow, very competitive in this division. That first side kick shows why.
Yeah.
And the second. Right, really trying to push for that power in the way that Ethan's son does. Very similar. Of course, their body type's a little bit different. So it has a slightly different look. Also, Daniel Lee, a little bit faster in his transitions. And that might throw him off balance, and it might work out for him. But when you have that much speed going into it, might change from time to time. Wow, look at that, 8.060. So on a couple of those, just a little bit, I'm not going to say off balance, but just not completely clean on some of those landings. And if not for that, you probably would have gotten to that 8.1, 8.2 range.
And we have gotten a couple of those. So I think that was the third highest score on that form for today. And he was fourth in his flight fourth highest score out of his flight coming into the semis. So he's definitely a contender. He placed third in the US Open last year in person. So he does have a little bit of experience in this division now as a 19-year-old.
I think in the top 3 in Summer Poomsae and the Grand Slam, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. Yep. He got third place in the Summer of Poomsae. And he also competed at the Wuxi World Cup in China in male team, where I think he also got a bronze there.
Nice push right from the side. Everything going into that. So that's because he has a nice strong support leg pushing into the ground so that he can really boost up with that kick.
바로
The bottom leg bends or there's a kind of a weakness there, he wouldn't be able to do that, but very strong.
장난.
I'm so sorry. I was looking at the wrong line. There's a Daniel Lee, a David Lee. So it doesn't look like he was on that Wuxi
Alex
team.
Lee. And
Yeah.
8.0.
But he has medaled.
That's a good score, 8.045 for his combined score.
Yeah, that's really good. That's one of the higher scores for Shipton that
Me.
we've seen.
So here we have Ryan Rial from Eagles
Yep.
Taekwondo in California. We saw 2 of his teammates go already in this division. So Ryan was on the team in 2016, the World Championship team in 2016 as a cadet, and then again as a junior in 2018.
And last year as
And
well,
also-
isn't that?
Right, and also 2020. So I was just looking ahead to see also on the junior team and so on. So I was trying to find the rest of his accolades here. So he's been
바로
competing at a very high level for a very long time, and it shows right there in that performance of
Wow.
getting the best score, right?
Holy
We
cow,
had an
yeah.
8.2 and now we have an 8.3. So he was on the cadet team in 2016. And he was on the junior team in 2018 and made the 2020 team as well.
Staying really nice and low, straight knee there. And he was actually second out of his flight behind David Lee, who is going to go after him now in this semifinals round. So we'll see the battle. Just these scores are crazy. And we're seeing, like we mentioned, there's a new referee chair for this event. So the referees really are expanding the range of the scores. We've seen some high 8s or scores in the 8s that are high, but an 8.3 I think is the highest so far of the tournament.
Oh, yes, it is by far, I mean by 8.2 to 8.3. So Ryan looks good throughout this entire form, but I have to say his horse stance is remarkable because it's accurate from side to side, no matter which side he went to, right or left, front and back. It all looks really clean. So if you're looking for how to make a clean Juchum Sogi,
차렷.
go ahead and review this
Okay.
video a few times. So look at this, 8.23.
That's
So
incredible.
2 great scores. So this is going to take him over that 8 bump. And we have 2 athletes that have done that in this division so far. So he receives 8.265 and now in the first place.
준비. 시작.
So here up now is David Lee from Kings Cave Taekwondo in Georgia.
And we just saw his brother Daniel Lee go a couple of athletes ago. They look so similar. But David is 17 going now. Daniel, who we saw before, 19 years old. So a couple of years apart now, both of them in this senior one division. And like I mentioned, David had
Hello.
a higher score than Ryan in that flight from the prelims. So we'll see here, the battle continues.
8.27. Yeah, it's a bit of a three-way battle in a way between Eagles, Just Taekwondo, and Kim's K in this division. A lot of athletes from all three of those clubs. Nice posture, very nice.
So this is David's first time here competing with Shipjin. His brother was able to get almost the same score, an 8, in his second form, but we have seen the scores for Shipjin vary up and down. So we'll see if David is able to keep that 8 to be in the running there with Ryan.
Yeah, who'd have thought that our first athlete with a 7.57, that would be the lowest score of the division. We would have thought that would have been right up near the top.
Yeah, I think we had a 7.465 is the only score that was lower than that. And they've high 7s and low 8s. So just really impressive. I think all of these athletes should feel really good about the performances that they've done. They've clearly put in a lot of work over the last year.
Well, that's right. We had one 7.465. That's right. And even still, we would have thought in the semifinal round that would easily get you to the final round.
Right.
We have 8.030, another over 8. And finishes with an 8.15, and now our fourth competitor, the final score over 8. So we have Ryan Rial in first, followed by David Lee, Ethan Sun, Daniel Lee, Churuk Oh, Brandon Cho, Casey Liu, and Ethan Lam in those top 8 spots, at least for now. We're looking for the top 8 to go on to the final round. We still have 4 athletes to go. First of which is Amil Javid from Apex Tiger Martial Arts. I think maybe here competing at his home in Illinois.
Right, I think that's right. He lives just outside of Chicago in Illinois, but his team is Team ATMA. We can see there in his uniform, which is out of New Jersey. So maybe it wasn't the best weather. I know I couldn't go to record because it was super snowy outside. When we had to record, I just snowstorm after snowstorm, and I'm sure Illinois was worse than I am here in Maryland. So maybe he had just had to do them at home. And he is just really flexible. He's so close to the pole.
Looks like he's been really working on that posture of the side kick. A lot of improvement over time with that.
Yeah, he just recently competed in the third Lens online tournament in Europe, and he got a bronze medal there. I remember seeing a post about that. So he's definitely been putting himself out there a lot in these tournaments recently. Did the USA Taekwondo events last year, and a good score here, 7.9.
7.9. Looked like he had to shorten up one of those stances near the end of that line coming toward the camera. That's too bad. He was just right at the edge of the mat, and then maybe that steel chunk of metal to the front right.
You just gotta kick it and break it, and then have the water start spewing out for dramatic effect.
Well, it'd be really dramatic if he could go through this concrete wall here. Kind of close. Again, I like that dramatic lighting in the center of the mat.
Hips a little bit out here.
He's gonna have to hit that feet. He's gonna have to, but he doesn't. The little
I did the same thing on my video, so I totally understand.
Now you cheated way more than he did.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't get the like 0.3 lower than I got on Shipton.
Now this is interesting because it's, the camera's off to the side a little bit, so we really
Yeah.
can't tell if the kicks were centered. They did look like it from here.
We're just getting the different judges' point of view. We're getting like the side judges' point of
Right.
view rather than the center judge. I mean, it makes sense. He was centered on choreo, which is, I think, important, but then because he had to start over to the right for Shipjin, and it's all in the same video, that's why we have that angle.
Right, and he gets a 7.83. So good score, all things considered, on that form. And finishes with a 7.865. And here's Andrew Hurd from CW Taekwondo at Boston.
시작.
Now, I always get confused, but I think that Andrew recently graduated from Northeastern University, which is where Brian Marr is going to start next year. And Emil Dravid, who we just saw, goes to Northwestern. I think those are all accurate.
Well, Andrew's pushing the speed on this one. He is not wasting any time. So I'm really interested in seeing how this plays out with the judges. I don't know if he always or has recently been going this fast, but this is fast for the division. So we'll see how it plays out.
He's been working on that rhythm and really trying to have connections.
He gets a good score, 7.84.
I didn't note what the cutoff was so far. I know there's 1, 2, 3,
시작.
4 scores in the 8s and then a 7, 9, 8, 5. So that cutoff right now is somewhere around a high 7.8, but I don't know exactly what it is.
Yeah, he had the same score as Ethan Lamb from Georgia did on choreo. This side looks a little bit stronger in this position.
Just a little bit of a lean settle there into that stance. I do think he's trying to push the tempo, really show some of these connections, but maybe not quite hitting the weight shift because he is moving quite quickly. But his power is also really great. I think he actually tones down his power for videos because in person it's just crazy strong. He has this new haircut that just really shows off the shake of his power.
바로.
So Andrew Hurd received a 7.84. So we know there's a cutoff somewhere around those high 7.8s, right?
Yeah.
So let's see how he did here. 7.7 for Sipchin. So Andrew will finish up with a 7.77. And we have just 2 athletes to go in the division. This is Hyun-Suk Lee from Team Champions.
시작.
I think this camera angle also might be a little bit low, so those neck strikes were coming out around the nose rather than the neck. His head looks slightly tilted. Maybe that was just me.
바로.
I think he was trying to show a lot of power coming through, but maybe not quite getting a flow. Although gets a really good score here, 787.
Shut.
I think you might have to pick up a score with this one to make the cut.
Think I'm looking at all my notes with the scores. I think that it might be a 7.835 right now as the cutoff. So he's there by a few hundredths of a point, but he has to maintain that score here on Shipjin, which we've seen a lot of athletes drop down a couple of tenths. It does seem like the judges are rewarding power in this round here. We had some really strong athletes getting those really high scores. Not a super aggressive tempo, but do still need some connections.
Shut.
That high score right now that Ryan is holding with a 8.265. So Hyun-Suk Lee
0.8.
a little lower. Oh, it's gonna be so close. I don't know. Can't do math that fast.
Finishes with a 7.835, if that helps.
I think that's a tie for the last spot. So it's gonna be presentation, or if Elian here can get higher than that.
Elian did really well in the prelim round. So this is Elian Ortega from Nicaragua.
Nice reach on those side kicks. A little bit swingy at the top. It swings into place for that vertical, but it is basically getting vertical. A little bit of a roll on the foot there on the retraction into the front stance. So that might be a minor. I don't think the foot came off the ground, so not a major.
Baro.
Oh, and the 8. So that's going to switch things up.
Definitely.
Let's see if he could hang on to this and get it even a little higher on Sipchin. Maybe get him a little bit better spot in the final round.
Right, so he is the last athlete here for this semifinal, 16th. And the top 8 athletes will go into the finals where they will go in reverse order based on score. So the highest score, which will be Ryan Real holds, he will go last. And Elian got the same score, an 8.0 as Casey Liu did, who went third. And Casey has a combined score of 7.835, who's tied with Hyun-Suk, who just went for that 8th spot into the final. So let's see if Elian can keep a higher score here. If he can get like a 7.6, 7.7 or higher, he'll guarantee a spot in the finals. Took a little bit of a short step there, I think, to stay within the frame. I also did that in my video. But stayed in, and we'll see what the judges think.
Baro.
Nobody noticed Miyako, except for me and all of you.
And the judges.
And the judges. And he ends up with a 7.640. So that's interesting because balancing that out is going to be, again, now really close, 7.820. So we'll see the standings here right now. Mystery is over. We have Ryan Rial in first place going into the finals, followed by David Lee, Ethan Sun, Daniel Lee, Churok Oh from Korea, Brandon Cho, Emil Javid, and Casey Liu.
Yeah, so Casey won that tiebreaker there, that 7.835 that Hyun-Suk Lee also had. But when you do have a tie, it goes to presentation. And then whoever has the higher presentation score will take that win.
So we're going to move on to the male under 40 division. First up, we have Shay Tippins from the United Taekwondo Academy.
Yeah, this is the 31 to 40 men. We saw them in 2 flights. In the prelims, they were small flights. I think there was like 21 athletes. So we now have 11 here in the semis. And they are also opening with choreo. Shay is really tall. He's one of the taller athletes for this division. Doesn't have the highest side kicks, but I think otherwise has a really good volume of motion with his arm techniques. Sometimes drifts a little bit below the belt, but at least over the past year with online tournaments, the judges have really responded positively to his style, and he's made it into the finals, I think, in both the Summer of Poomsae and at the Grand Slam.
He's going to start us off with a 7.40.
See, chop.
That's not terribly rare to have 2 forms in order from a random draw, but here we have choreo followed by kumgang, which is the order that we learned them in.
I think most athletes would have preferred to have kumgang first.
Yep.
In case they have any balance issues, take care of those rather than getting through choreo and then having to face kumgang. But of course, they were able to do as many takes as they needed to do.
Yeah, it's a very different environment preparing for it because the Poomsae are released and then you get a whole week to record them. And I know some people did 3 sessions, like 3 days. They would go into the dojang for 3 hours. Like I think I did mine in 2 days, like 1 hour each. But I started to get in my head about it. I wonder if other athletes did. And you just like, well, maybe if I try this style, let me try a different style. And it just got to be too much. I think you just have to find something that really works. Just get a take you're happy with and don't spend all day every day for a whole week trying to get another take, just one better.
I know athletes that'll do like 30 runs in a day and then do the same thing the next day and the same thing the next day. And then you'll get somebody like Master Ron Southwick, and he said he just drives up to the dojang, gets out, does two, and he gets back in the car, kind of trying to make it as much like an event as possible.
Yeah,
Great way to go about it. He'll be ready when things clear up. This is Long Win from Team M Taekwondo in California.
Master Southwick.
Well, he and his teammate Jan Trigg did that legendary performance at the Summer of Poomsae in the parking garage.
Right.
And so they're pretty hardcore.
Out there in Michigan, yeah. It's too cold, too much snow this time around. But here, another, not parking garage, but a house garage.
So Long's looking good in this run of choreo.
Pearl.
looking nice and strong. He also competed with freestyle last year, making the team, but here doing really strong with his opening form.
시작.
A little bit of a body shift side to side there on those back stances. So I think I mentioned at the top of this division, there are 11 athletes, and we'll take the top 8. So only 3 of them won't make it into the finals, which can either be good or bad if you're right on the edge there, but we're not cutting out too many since it was a smaller division to start with. Although I think one of the first times that the senior 2 division has started in the prelims.
Oh, interesting. So doing a really good job on those Hakdari sogis. The Juchum sogi a little bit more trouble getting both of those feet to face the front and be even there in their angle. So he's a little bit shy on this one, but he's hanging on really good on these Hakdari sogis. But it's that position there where that right foot almost wants to behave. So he did a really good job through the majority of that. I thought that was a good form for him, for his body structure. And now there's some details to work on. So he gets a 7.3 for Kumgang. So he'll finish his semifinal round with a 7.380.
준비.
This is Hoyoung Ji from TS Taekwondo.
시작.
And I think we must have seen his teammate compete in the senior 1 division just before this.
Yep.
And they are coming to us from Suwon, South Korea.
Right, so that was Churuk Oh. We'll see him again in the finals.
And I think we mentioned in the prelims, but Ho Young-ji is the 2020 national team member from South Korea for this under 40 division. And he was also the coach of the Philippines national team for the SEA games.
Hello.
And his teammate was Churuk Oh was the coach of the Vietnam team. Is that correct?
Oh, let me check.
So Hoyoung Ji starts off at 7.8.
That's a good score.
시작.
So it wasn't his teammate Churuk Oh, who's just 26, but I think it was another of the South
Under
Korean
50,
players that was
right.
the coach. Yeah,
In the under 50 division.
right. High knee up there on that stomp. That was dramatic. So Ho Young-ji was the first place in his flight from the prelims. They had Paul Jong and Pyeongwon, and he got such a high score with Pyeongwon that his combined score was an 8.1. He got an 8.23 on that form. So we'll see different set of judges here. Has the highest score by a few tenths, almost a half a point. So we'll see. I think choreo might have benefited him with those kicks, and the first 2 players did drop just a little bit. Kumgang, hard form, but he's looking very steady on these crane stances.
바로. 자, 차렷 경례.
And he gets a little bit of a lower score here with a 7.67. And finishes up with a 7.755. This is Mohammed Al Abbas from Saudi Arabia.
So Mohammed actually competed at the World Poomsae Championships in 2018 in Taipei, and he placed 5th in individual in the under 40 division. So he's experienced at the world level in this division. He's actually taking a much quicker tempo. I think I remember in the prelims it was much slower. Is that right? I feel like I remember the Saudi team member from the prelims, very slow, measured approach here, showing a much quicker tempo, good connections.
Right, that's right. He's connecting these a lot quicker with choreo. Let's see how that works out for him. So he's right here at number 4 slot. Anything can happen with the scores. He's a 7.4. So that's tied up with Shay Tippins, who our first athlete from United Taekwondo Academy.
And the interesting fact about Mohammed is that he graduated from Jubail Industrial College and he majored in precision tools. I'd never heard of that as a major, but sounds cool. And he's been working at Aramco, which is the Saudi national oil company, which I did a lot of research on at work. And they recently had an IPO, which was a big deal because it's like the largest, sovereign wealth fund in the world, I think.
He's got a really nice high leg, high thigh position, nice and horizontal on these Hagdadi sogis. Struggling a little bit to keep it there on this one. I like the effort trying to bring that all the way up.
A little bit in rise and fall in some of those transitions, but he is trying to stay really low in some of those stances. He has long legs too, so it does show nicely when he gets that low stance.
Yeah, definite drop between the Hagdadi sogi and the Juchum sogi there. So you got a 7.4 on choreo and 717 on kumgum. So Mohammed's going to finish this round with 7.285.
준비.
Up next, we have On Win, our 2020 World
Stop.
Championship team member in this division. I think these forms will play to his strength.
That's nice. We have all 3 of the Win brothers here in the semifinals. On is the oldest at 38 years old.
He usually has very clean stances like that one, clean finishes.
Long front stance there. You're really trying to push that out.
Yeah, and long horse stance as well. So this is going to be interesting to see. Well, I'm sure he'll finish this strong, but how he approaches kumgum. I think he's going to look really nice and level, have really good balance throughout that form.
걸어.
He gets a 7.730.
That's pretty close to the score of Ho Young-ji, who holds
Chuck.
the high score right now with a combined score of 7.755. But everybody's been dropping on Kumgang a little bit. We've seen a couple tenths drop at least for most of these players so far.
I don't think he's going to drop a lot on this form. He has a pretty solid stance. But although it is hard to get a high score in kumgong, right? I mean, it's just has a different dynamic. It's more like trying to stay out of trouble than trying to score super high.
Right. Although I think Kumgang is one of my strongest forms. I think I get my highest scores with Kumgang.
Well, a little drop on that one from Hakdari to the Juchum Sogi for sure. So So he just has to make sure he gets kind of low on this next Haktari Sogi and stays there. We can see it, the height behind him, right? That line going across that garage door. So we see if he stays at this height or if he's going to drop down a little bit. Right. So that's the only thing. Those horse dances are really good height in general. It's just the transition. So the Haktari being a little bit too high.
And coming up a little bit in the spins as well. And then dropping back down into the horse dance.
So as you said, a little bit of drop for most and same for him, 7.530 for Kumgang. So he'll finish with a 7.63. That's a good score. I think that's second right now. Am I right?
Yes, yes, it is.
This is Jin Kim from JK United Taekwondo Center.
Jin is also one of the top athletes in this division for the U.S. He's placed, I think, bronze in individual at US Open, at the National Championships, at the Grand Slam. But he's also won team divisions in the Senior 2 male team, which I believe he does with Master KJ, Kongjin Ha, and Johnny out of Arizona, if I'm right.
바로
Very solid. I feel like he doesn't take too many chances. He knows kind of where he needs to sit with his kicks and the tempo, and does a solid score there.
Yeah, 7.43.
You have a few scores there in the 7.4s. It's a difficult two forms. Choreo, so many side kicks. You have to be super dynamic, and then into Kumgang when you're tired and you're trying to keep really calm body, stances low, no bobbles. It's the challenging semifinal round here, I think, this draw. Maybe coming down a little bit rotated before the spin. Sometimes because you're anticipating the spin, you already start to turn the torso, but you want to make sure you're landing nice and square and then do the full spin. But otherwise, I think this looks pretty solid.
Nice save on both transitions to the front. So as he turned to the front on both those Haktaris, he had to catch himself a little bit and then disguise it. He did a really good job of that. We all do that on those transitions, one on the left-hand corner and then one on the right-hand corner of the form. So he's got a 7.33, so a little bit of a drop as well. Kind of following suit with everybody else. Had the same thing happen. So he finishes with a 7.38, and that's the same score, I think, as Long Wen. So let's see what happens. In our standing so far, we have Ho Jong-gi in first, followed by An Wen, Long Wen, Jin Kim, and then Mohammed Al-Abbas after.
준비.
Up next is Hui Wen.
시작.
The middle of the three Wen brothers, and they founded M Team in their garage. It's been a long time now, actually. I think it's 15, 20 years or something. It's been a long time that they've had this M Team, and they recently bought a bigger house and now have this 2-car garage so they can actually fit the full Poomsae in, which is nice. And he's been in this division now a couple years, one of the national team coaches, has coached at the collegiate level at the Summer University Games. Lots of athletes, so many athletes, 27 athletes he's developed into national team members for the World Championships or Pan American Championships. had a great score in the prelims. So let's see what the judges think here.
7.47 for Hui. Also, he was on the 2016 World Championship team. They received a bronze medal at the World Championship that year in 2016.
And he was on another team. I don't remember what year it was, but in the male team, senior 1 division, they won gold. He is a world champion in that division.
Right. So I'm not sure why this record is off, and I think that might have been in 2016. The 2018 looks like it was Jason Gook, KJ Ha, and Johnny Nguyen. They received bronze, if this record is accurate.
Right, but I think it was the senior 1 division because I remember he did it with Alvin and Albert Zhang.
Let me take a look.
And they had Kumgang. I remember watching it. I was at home watching the World Championships, and they won, I believe, with Kumgang. So Hui here has a lot of experience with Kumgang and the pressures of an important tournament. Of course, this is a major event in the US. It's also a 12.0, which means the first place winner of a full division gets 120 points. So the major means if you win it, you get put on the national team roster. There haven't been a ton of events, so that roster right now is pretty small. So it carries a lot of weight for the athletes that do manage to get on the roster with that major win.
I think that roster will definitely be filling up over the course of the next several months because there's going to be a talent ID happening real quick. 7.3 for Hui Nguyen on that second Poomsae. So athletes that get identified through that system will go onto the roster. And Hui ends up with a 7.385, just a tad higher than Jin Kim, who went before him. This is Hee-jae Yu from Team Kim Boyan.
Some good high front kicks, but some of his landings on his stances are just a little bit heavy. I feel like the leg comes down and just drops, and it just wants to be a little bit softer into some of these stances, but his side kicks have really good control. This is actually a division with quite a small range of scores, actually. We do have a tie. We have a couple of 7.285s, a 7.25, 7.38, 7.385. So there is some room there. And here, TJ gets a good score.
Yep, so he starts off with a 7.56.
I think that's the third highest score for that form. Those arms on the mountain block pulling a little bit too far behind him. They're almost like behind his head, and you want to keep those in line with your head. So we have a couple of high scores here right now. The high held by Hoyeong-ji, 7755, and then on with a 7.63. PJ right now sitting in that third place spot based on his first score, but again, that Kumgang has been the killer. That's maybe a little too strong. Diminisher of dreams. Scores going down just a little bit. So we'll see. Whoever can really hold on to their score on Kumgang is going to have a great chance here, but accuracy dipping here a bit.
Yeah, he had a little bit of a battle on that last that last Haktari stogie. So he ends up with a 7.415.
That's still high, though. I think that's still in third.
Up next, we have David Chan from CW Taekwondo at Boston.
Dave also has some good height on his side kicks and front kicks. Really quick rhythm here. He's really attacking it.
Yeah, what is going on out on the East Coast? These athletes really trying to push the speed.
Trying some new things, Coach Brand.
No, this is a place to do it, right? See how the referees respond to it.
Right, exactly. So we saw Andrew Hurd, his teammate in the senior one division before this. I don't think he made it into the finals. He was just a little bit behind, a few hundredths of a point, missed it. But that was a tough, stacked division there. Andrew got a bronze at the Grand Slam. So let's see here, 7.47. So that ties with Hui and does put him there in the ranking. Again, 11 athletes taking the top 8 into the finals. And Dave and Carissa, his wife, do pairs. They were on the national team in 2020 for this senior 2 pairs division. They competed at the Pan American Championships where I believe they won a gold.
He's having a little trouble here getting that right foot to behave. It's moving off to the right in these horse stances here. So a little bit angled to the right. Kind of like what I was mentioning with longs. Like it's almost there in that foot placement. It's just a little bit troubling. You want those feet to square up to the front.
Pretty good. I know we all work hard to try and keep those knees out and not let them cave in after the spin in the horse stance. And I think the last one was a pretty good effort there.
He ends up with a 7.23. So he's going to finish with a 7.350. Very close.
Yeah, there's a lot of scores at 7-3 something. So like 1, 2, 3, 4 scores all in that 10th of a point.
This is Minky Song from Dewangale, USA. He's done very well in other online events. So see how he does here.
Looking very calm coming towards the camera. Not much extra torso movement, which is nice. Good clean kicks and not an aggressive dip.
Yeah, good accuracy. Some athletes are really pushing out that horse stance. He seems to try to stay right where he's comfortable, a little bit shorter.
I believe Minky won the Grand Slam. He got first place, and here another big score.
Yep, 7.7. I think that's the second highest score. We had a 7.8 from Hoyoung Ji.
Really taking his time there on those stomps and mountain blocks before the transition into the crane stance. That was a really solid crane stance, or these horse stances. I think taking the time to set that up is helping him be very clean. And I love the fact that he lives in Oregon. The city in Oregon he lives in is Happy Valley. How great is that? I'm from Happy Valley.
Oh my. So Minky received a 7.7 for his first Poomsae, and now the exact same for the second.
That's impressive. Nobody else has managed to get the same score with Kumgang. So that definitely puts him up into, I think, second place.
So this is our last competitor, right? This is Ho Chul Ji, the 11th and final competitor of the division.
Right.
Nice reach.
Right. So this is, I think, also a teammate of the athlete we saw earlier, Ho Young-ji. Ho Chul is 32, and Ho Young is his coach. So we'll see if he is able to beat his coach's score. But Ho Young got that 7.8, so I don't know if he'll be able to beat that.
바로
Ooh.
Wow, look at that, 8.0. It's our first 8 of the semifinal round for the men. We saw quite a few for the under 30 semifinal just before this.
All right, here's another quick tempo here on that first bar. Ho Young lists Ho Chul as his coach, so they just are coaching each other, and they're both 32, it looks like. So I wonder, they both have the same last name, and I believe in Korean you do this for siblings, you use the same part of the name, so Ho Chul and Ho Young. So I wonder if they're brothers, and if they're both 32, I wonder if they're twins. I wish I had fun facts.
It's a good interview question, yeah. So hopefully this doesn't spark up any sibling rivalry, because he got an 8.0
저 차렷 경례
and Ho Young got a 7.8, so really super close. And he drops down a little bit, so this is interesting, to a 7.7. That should still put him in really fine shape with a 7.850 total score. So Ho Chul Ji then in first place, followed by Ho Young Ji, Miki Song, On Win, PJ Yu, Kui Win, Long Win, and Jin Kim. Those are our finalists. They'll move on to the final round.
That cutoff there is 7.38, that tied for third. That Long was able to take the 7th place spot, and Jin finishing us out.
So we're going to move on to the female under 30 semifinal round, beginning with Kelsey Ha from Team M Taekwondo. We just saw her coaches in the last division, and now she's up and ready to go. So starting off with everybody's favorite, Kumgang.
Probably happy to have it as the first form. And this is a big division. This was our biggest division of this session. We had 45 athletes in the prelims, 3 flights. So they were all pretty small, but now here are all of these 24 athletes in the semis. Kelsey's doing a good job of keeping that knee nice and high here in this crane stance. Little bit of a drop in those horse stances compared to the crane stance. And we do, because we had 3 flights and we had international athletes, that first prelim round was all randomized, the semis round again randomized. So this is not the order from the prelim rounds. So we don't know how the scores are going to kind of play out across the 2 forms. But Kelsey opens us up here with Kumgang and a 7.13.
Stop.
And the second form for this female senior 1 division will be Chiljong. I'm taking a look back at my notes. The women in this division in the prelims had Shipjin and Paljong. Now they have Kumgang and Chiljong, so no sidekicks yet for these ladies. So they're going to have to wait until the finals to show off the flexibility and strength that they have in their sidekicks.
Hello.
A little bit of a bobble there on that last punch, but otherwise very solid. Chiljong Kelsey again has great flexibility. I'm a little sad I don't get to see any sidekicks here from her. Her dip is just so small and her leg shoots upward. So a nice big jump here. 7.53 for Chiljong gives her a combined score of 7.33. So just like we saw in the last division, the male senior 2, Kumgang, the score is lower, and it was their second form, so the score dropped. But here, Kumgang is first. Chiljong should be a pretty high scoring form, so we'll expect the scores to be higher on the second one. Now our second athlete here for the division is Christy Park from Taekwon Kids, and she is coached by Bo Hyun Kim. And Christy was super strong in her flight. I believe she was in the first flight. Oh, the second flight. There were 3 flights. And she was in first place out of that group. The scores for her group were in the 6s to 7s, and she had the highest score there combined with the 7.515. So we'll see here how these scores. We're going to need a few athletes to kind of figure out what the range is going to be. But Christy is opening up really strong. And we'll get to see some of those great front kicks of hers in the next one.
Hello.
Wow. So that is a huge score for Kumgang, a 7.66.
시작.
I feel like Christy's actually slowed down a little bit, slowed down from the summer of Poomsae. I feel like she came out her first year in the division and just was super fast, like attack. Now she's settling in a little bit, feeling more comfortable in this division. And again, she was first place in her flight. So, and that huge score in the first form, which was Kumgang. So again, we're expecting the scores here on Chiljong to go up.
Right, so Christy Park got a 7.66 for her first form and 7.6 for the second. She's in really good shape at this point. She has a total score of 7.630. This is Natalia Munatonis, and She's from Taekwondo Athletic Center.
Pretty good height on the knee there, almost in line with her belt. These horse stances may be just a little bit short. I think she could widen them a little bit. But again, these are such hard stances because you want those feet to be parallel as you're doing the spins, and she's not quite getting to parallel stances there. So I said, maybe if I try to extend them, they're just going to be worse. So we're going to go with this length for today.
So just a little over rotation on that last step there. And she finishes that with a 7.0. Very nice height on those first front kicks. I think a lot of these athletes are going to be relieved after that Kumgang center. They can really feel comfortable and get in the rhythm in Chiljang. So Natalia received 7.0 for the first form and a little bit higher. Good job on the second one, 7.070 on the second. So she'll finish with a 7.035. Up next, we have Jerem Jong. Yerim Jong from Yongin Martial Arts.
시작.
She had a really strong prelim round. So I'm really interested in seeing how she does here. Really nice, clean posture and taking that full 8 seconds on the slow motion movement.
It's nice to see Yerim here competing. I don't think we saw her sister at this tournament. I know we saw her at previous tournaments last year, and her brother, Jeong Jung. I also don't think we saw him, but I know he's at school at West Point. So I think he's probably a little bit busy.
7.53, really good score. So she feels pretty settled. There are a couple spots in there where I thought it didn't go quite exactly how she wanted it to, but she's able to just drift right into the next thing and make the transition look clean. She's got really high, nice kicking, but more importantly, really good posture kick.
And I have heard from one of my referee friends that on the front kicks, whereas before in previous years, I was told, that base foot has to be at 30 degrees only. Don't let it open up to 90, but apparently now up to 90 is okay to really let you push that hip forward and try and get that front kick as high as you possibly can. So I know in previous tournaments we had said, try and keep the foot at 30. They're opening it up so wide, but I guess that's okay now. And we're really getting to see some really high front kicks.
I think that opinion might change from referee to referee. Some referees don't like that overextended look. If you go by the book, it is around 30%. So you know, you just have to play the odds and do what's right for your body. So
Right.
Yerimchang gets a 7.63 for second form, so ends up with a nice high 7.580 and now into second place. This is Ingrid Darce from Nicaragua.
시작.
We have a couple international athletes here in the semis. Ingrid is from Nicaragua, like we mentioned. We also have Eva Sanderson, who is from Denmark, right? I think she's the national team member for that division, and she was very strong. She's going to be last for us today in this division, so we'll have to wait a while to see her come up. But again, we have 200 athletes in the US Open for the senior master divisions. 8 countries, the US, South Korea, Saudi Arabia, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Australia, Canada, and Ingrid here from Nicaragua. So great to really have this international presence. It is different to the US Open that we had in person last year in Florida. And of course, the cadets and juniors are going to be in the next session. And so we'll have to see how many international athletes we get in that group once we air it in a few weeks. Ingrid looking pretty strong, a little bit of a C curve in her back on some of those mountain blocks. And a little of these looking just a little small on some of the volume of motions. She could just kind of open up, take up a little bit more space on camera.
And she had 6.27. She looks very light on screen, right? She looks like she maybe weighs 100 pounds. So she's really going to have to find a way to push out that power.
I think sinking into her stances just a little bit more might help her look a little more grounded.
That line up front near the camera looked a little bit stronger. I think she just needs to hang out up here a little bit more. So she gets a 6.96 for her Chojung. So a nice bump up for her, and finishes with a 6.615. Up next, we have Karen Rial.
준비. 시작. 바로 샷. 시작. 바로 샷. 차렷. 경례.
All right, so here are those standings with Karen's massive 7.8s putting her way into first place. And then Christy Park with that 7.63 and Yerim with 7.58 to close out our top three.
시작.
This next athlete is Valerie Long. A little bit distracting here with the video moving side to side panning. Looks like maybe they're not on a tripod either. But it looks like a nice big open space, which is great.
Right, I think in the prelim round, that didn't happen for her. I think maybe she had a tripod then, but this one kind of panning right and left. Throws us off just a little bit while we're watching it, but does capture her whole body.
She had a couple of those stances where she was really trying to stay low, which was good, but just not quite consistent. So I think working to stay nice and low, stay nice and grounded will help her overall improve that accuracy score and bring her total score up.
So she gets a 6.87 for Kumgang.
시작.
So this is going to be a big cutoff. We're taking the top 8 athletes out of 24, and we'll see that the standing screen come up every 6 athletes. So we just saw them with Karen holding that top spot right now with a 7.8. We do have quite a range of scores, though. It's almost a 1.5 so far. Range here, so we'll have to wait and see over the next few athletes where that top 8 cutoff starts to form around.
바로.
Bradley took a quick approach there on her tempo to Chiljong.
차렷.
I think maybe slowing
Finish.
down, really grounded, clicking into some of those moves, making sure they finish will help her presentation, but she gets a nice, slightly higher score here on the second one.
Doesn't it always feel good when the second one's higher?
It does.
6.920 for Valerie Long's final score. This is Minji Kang from Dobak Sori.
시작.
And Minji is one of our Korean athletes in this division. She was in the first flight with Karen and was in second place in that group. Her combined scores is 7.485 behind Karen's 7.765. So let's see how this two plays out here. I do remember, I feel like she didn't take as low of an approach with the stances in the prelims. And I feel like a similar approach here, these Kumgang horse stances could be a little bit wider, but so far she's been really clean. So that might just be the choice again that she made on that day, to have a really clean, solid accuracy run and not push the stances. That's a nice high knee there. A couple of little wobbles. Just some
More of
little
a, like a
tremors.
little, yeah, more of a little tiny like
바로
shake. And she gets a 7.33.
시작.
Some really nice front kicks to open us up.
Very accurate. Nice and clean.
Yeah, I felt the same way about her Kumgang, actually. I thought that score could have been a little higher. And I think that she has opened up the stances on this form, took a big step on that top line into the like rib cage punch. So I would give this form a higher score, but I expected a higher score on the first one.
Oh, and there it is, 7.43 for Minji Kang. And she's going to finish with a 7.380. So this is Leila Amiri from High Five Taekwondo in California.
시작.
Layla is 18. I think this is her second year in the division because I remember her from last year's Summer Poomsae, although I'm getting all mixed up with the cadets and juniors, but I think this is her second year maybe. She's 18 right now, and she is a first-year student in biological sciences at UC Irvine.
Impressive.
Biological sciences, very cool. And at the Summer Poomsae Grand Slam, we saw Layla training and recording in her garage, which is where she normally trains. But she lives 2.5 hours away from the dojang, which is where we see her recording here. So she does commute weekly to the dojang, but I can't imagine that she can do it more than once a week. That's a 5-hour commute just to train there. So most of the training is done in her garage at home.
That little knee movement there just drive you crazy while you're doing it. Trying to pretend it's not happening. Good job.
Really quick spins there. So she actually puts her feet nearly together versus, like, I think it was Ingrid from Nicaragua. She had big wide steps in between. So just totally different approaches there.
And the question is, how fast do you want to spin? You still have to hang on to it at the end, right?
Right.
Gamble there. I think sometimes we feel like we're spinning pretty fast and we look back and we go, not so much. But that would be a cool thing, right? To have all that contrast, those really cool spins.
It's just being able to hold on to it, make sure that you're landing in a good clean stance with the knees open, parallel feet, centered weight, and it's sometimes hard to control if you go too fast. But Layla got that pretty good score. Again, there's a huge range of scores in this group so far. And she opened up with some really high front kicks on the second form. Couple of heel pops here on these longer transitions. She might be trying to push the length of her front stances, but because of that, sacrificing on the transition itself. So just keeping those heels down will help boost her accuracy score.
Yeah, that happened a bit with her kicking technique too. Whenever the kick went up, her support heel went up as well. So she's just got to push it down through the floor a bit. So she received a 7.1 for her first form. And now a little higher, 7.2 for Chiljang. So Leila Amiri from High Five Taekwondo is going to finish up with a 7.150.
Our favorite background here. We have Renee Zhao from California.
시작.
Renee is part of the T-Boss competition team at CW Taekwondo at Boston. She went to college at MIT, which is when she joined our team there in Boston. Recently started medical school in California, so she's now out there on the West Coast getting those beautiful sunsets. Oh, Coach Brand, no, I saw a car go by. It's totally not a backdrop. It's not fake.
I was going to say, it looks just a little bit darker than the prelim round. So it looks
Right,
like
the
she
sun
might
is
have,
setting.
yeah, she might have recorded these in order.
And Renee had a really great prelim run. I remember thinking that she just looked really strong and grounded. She's been working really hard training, and I'm just so impressed that she's doing it all while going to medical school. I also love
release. It's probably like a great release and like just let go of all that heavy brain work. You get more in sync with your athletic side. It's got to be really welcome to her. That's a nice clean finish.
Yeah, very nice job for Renee.
And she gets a 7.4. That's a really nice high score for that.
Yeah, these scores are really just all over the place, so I'm not sure what the cutoff is going to be. After the 12th athlete, we'll get to see the standings again, and then we might have a better idea. But some nice high front kicks there from Renee, and showing some good torso motion here. A great job to Renee. Really, her most fun fact that I remember is that she loves boba, and she makes her own boba. She makes her own.
That is different. Most people just love boba. She actually makes it. That's awesome. 7.240. And she finishes up with a 7.320. Up next, we have AJ Munoz from Team Forge Taekwondo. We have a big range of the scores, so it's going to be interesting to see how she falls in with these athletes. This is a good form for her, typically Kumgang.
Right, our high right now is a 7.8 held by Karen Real. Then we have Christy Park with a 7.63 and Yaren with a 7.58. Then we have a bunch of scores in the lower sevens all the way down to 7 or 6.6. So we do have quite the range here. I expect AJ to be, up there in the top with a good form here, Kumgang. But anything can happen.
Yeah, we have 24 athletes, so plenty of Poomsae to see.
And we have athletes, again, from multiple countries, including Eva Standerson from Denmark, who is the national team member for this division at the World Championships last year, and I believe she did quite well. So we have some good competition here.
Yeah, she came out quick and powerful. She's like the Ethan Sun of the female division.
AJ looking really steady. We're not seeing any of those kind of tremors, the knee shakes that we had in some earlier athletes.
And she gets a 7.9, so that is the high. That is the high score for that form in this round. Oh, 7.93, sorry. 7.93 for AJ.
시작.
A little bit of extra movement there on her shoulders on those front kicks.
It's just a little head dip.
but really strong. I remember we talked about her uniform in the prelims. It's the pants are a little bit short, which really allow us to get a good look at both her ankles and foot position, but also I think helps try and show out, make sure that back leg is locked in the front stances, which sometimes the pants can cover.
Right. So it's a gamble though, right? If you wear pants a little bit too short, you have to, you have to take a really good look at it, because sometimes it can make your legs look shorter.
Right.
So you just have to be careful about that. So she received a 7.93 and then now a little bit higher, 7.94. So now into first place with a 7.935.
That is a big score there from AJ.
To me.
And this is the opposite with the pants, right?
Right.
Kira Kozar from Apex Tiger Martial Arts.
It looks like they must have done something with the lighting to make it really bright, and so I'm losing some of the outlines of her uniform against the wall. But I think I can still see her hand, so I don't think the judges should have any problems scoring this. It's just a little bit different. I had to adjust to it.
That's true. It's hard to kind of see the outline of her arm in the back there.
Right.
It's that wall. Typically, those windows are open, and we kind of see out to the snow and the trees and everything that's outside. Maybe they were recording at night and brought in some kind of lighting, maybe.
I know a lot of dojongs have thought about lighting and spaces and covering the back wall, and there's just so much thought that goes into these video recordings. But hopefully this is one of the last online tournaments before we can go in person. We're still not sure what events might be coming in the future, but make sure you keep checking in to USA Taekwondo to find out what the next events will be. Nice finish there. Sometimes Kumgang, if my hair's in a ponytail, can like whip my eyes and I can't see. She managed to somehow keep that all under control, so I'm very impressed.
Oh, right. I know exactly what you mean with that. So I typically opt for the French braid, but sometimes I let it go too. I know exactly what you mean.
Stop.
Good. Nice hand technique to the front.
Yeah, she's also doing a good job of staying low in those transitions. But I think because she was so low on the front kicks, we didn't get quite a full extension on the base leg. But here, staying low, pretty low in transition, up nice and tall, and then back down. Pretty good.
Yeah, I think this form a lot stronger for her than Kumgang. She seems to be pretty comfortable with it. She's able to stay low and strong, and coming to the front, looking more powerful than probably to the right and left. So she received a 7.13 for the first form and 7.26 for the second. So she'll finish with a 7.195. And here are the standings so far, with AJ Munoz in first, followed by Karen Rial, Christy Park, Yerimjong Minji Kong, Kelsey Ha, Renee Zhao, and Kira Kozar. That's the top 8 right now. We still have quite a ways to go, though, to find the top 8 moving on to the final round in the Senior 1 female division.
That's right. We're just halfway through. There's 24 athletes. We just saw the first 12, so now on to the second half of this semifinal group.
This is Christina Threlkeld from Master Kim's World Class Taekwondo.
And this is her first year in this Senior 1 division, just aged up out of the junior group. Looking pretty strong. Sometimes it's hard to power up into this division, but I think she's doing a good job here of showing some good power, good cleanliness, a little bit of hips there, not quite tucked under on that mountain block, but a nice high knee here on this crane stance.
Right. I was really impressed with her in the junior division. She was quite strong, surprisingly so.
That punching arm coming across in the horse stance after the spin, just angled down a little bit. Just need to make sure that that comes perfectly across so it's parallel to the ground.
바로.
Okay, so Christine Threlkeld, good job getting a 7.26.
That's pretty good, especially for Kumgang. We are seeing the scores go up,
시작.
not consistently, but for most athletes here for Chiljang. And my cat Nacho just jumped up into my lap. He's ready to check out all the action here in this semifinal round for the Senior 1 females. A little bit of a lean on her torso. We can see it right there where she's just leaning forward a little bit in some of those horse stances, so that might hurt her accuracy or presentation, but it's something to work on, really tucking the hips underneath and keeping that back really straight, especially on those horse stances going to the back. But a huge jump here. Wow.
Yeah, good job to Christine. Is getting a 7.530 on Chiljang. So she'll finish up with a 7.395.
And that cutoff before her was a 7.195 for the top 8, but we were only 12 athletes in. So let's see here what Kira can do.
Wow, we have a great view of her. She is just right up front in the camera. The camera is just positioned just right for a good look.
Right, this is a new space for her. It's not the same dojang, or at least corner that we saw in a previous tournaments from her. But it's true. It's nice. It's a nice clean background, and we can see her up close. Also, I appreciate to Kira in this recording that she has some false eyelashes on.
Did you say she's wearing false eyelashes?
I think so. She took the time. She's making sure that we appreciate her, attention to detail.
How did you pick that out?
Because look at how long her eyelashes are.
시작.
Sorry, we didn't introduce Kira. This is Kira Chan. Kira is from Tiger On's Taekwondo in Massachusetts, but she trains with the T-Boss competition team out of CW Taekwondo at Boston. She is one of my teammates. I've competed in female team with her before I aged into senior 2, and she also does freestyle. So we've seen her in a ton of divisions at some of these tournaments. They're totally fake. Well, because we've talked about how we're trying the new magnetic eyeliner and eyelashes so that you don't have to glue them on. You can just magnet them onto your face. They're really cool. Good job, Kira. You look great.
Okay. So Kira Chan finishes with a 7.460 on that second Poomsae. And her total is 7.430. This is Leo Rosenzweig. from CW Taekwondo at Boston.
Bottle. Shaw. 시작. Bottle. Shaw. Juliet. Kim Yang.
준비. 시작.
Our next athlete here is Callie Waldman from Arizona.
She trains with Arizona Pride Taekwondo as well as World Taekwondo Center. Looking good here, trying to stay level and balanced. So it'd be good to see a little bit more contrast with the power coming into this punch here. Right now they're getting placed out there a little bit, and that is what a lot of athletes do, right? Because they're trying to just finish everything. So sometimes we have to go on a little bit of more of an attack attitude on that piece. And it seems like such a short punch, it's hard to do it, right? But we do have to make sure that we're trying to throw as much power into that as we can get and still not lose our balance.
Right, and this is her first year in this division. She's 17, so I think we'll just have to develop her strength and power over time, but gets a fairly decent score here on the first form.
So she finishes that one with a 7.13.
시작.
I think this upward angle does not help her. I think this would be a good adjustment to make for next time. I know that room might seem pretty small and you have to come forward a lot. I probably shift back as far to the wall as possible and try to make it work, because what would that be? Maybe 4 mats, right? So not sure what would be the best angle here, but this one above is not going to complement her as much as a straight on view.
Right. It looks like our eye level is just above her head, and we do want it to be lower, closer to like the stomach, I think is what they said for the World Championships, right? Like the
Right.
belt
We can
level.
really feel, yeah, we can really feel the power if it's at that height. But when we're looking down, it's losing something. And I don't think that her score is going to benefit from that angle. So 7.4, she did a lot better on Chiljung. I think it would have been even better with a slightly different angle. So she finishes with a 7.265.
시작. 바로 쉬어. 준비. 시작. 바로 쉬어. 차렷. 경례.
준비.
So up next, we have Haley Raw.
시작.
Haley's from Agape Black Belt Center. Nice transition here to that first Hatari Sogi. See if he drops down a little bit. Not really. Able to hang on to it, but good little pause there to make sure that she's going to make the transition with balance.
This is Haley's second year in this division, and she had some really good results last year, her first year, I think medaling bronze for individual. And what's fun is that her brothers are competing for the first time this year as well. She says that She has two brothers, Luke
Hello.
and Matthew, and both of them are competing. So all three of them in the US Open this time for the first time.
And wow, big score, 7.630 for Haley Raw's Kumgang.
Yeah, that's really high. So we saw
시작.
Erica just before this get that 7.7 on the first form. That combined score 773 puts Erica in, I believe, third place. So Haley right up there right now, sort of in that top 4 space. Pretty clean stances there, but not getting a full extension on the base leg when she came up to do those punches and the knee comes up on that top bar.
바로
The good part of that, though, is she stayed pretty level through that line. I could see her really trying to work to do that.
차렷.
So that's really a great
네.
place to start off, and then maybe add the power once you're level. So Haley got a 7.63. Look at that. And a nice jump, 7.83. So finishing with a 7.73.
And I think that's the same score. Here we go. Yeah, that Erica just got.
Right, so here are the standings so far with AJ Munoz in first place, followed by Karen Rial, Haley Raw, Erica So, Christy Park, Yerim Jong, Kira Chan, and Christina Thelkel. Those are our top 8 so far, but we have plenty to go in this semifinal round of the Senior 1 female division.
That's right. Those last 6 spots here, we're going to see those athletes go to finish out this episode. It's the last of the semifinals, and then tomorrow we'll kick off the finals.
시작.
So this is Elizabeth Zhou from CW Taekwondo at Boston. So it looks like her support leg is a little bit on the straighter side. So then she has to drop down quite a bit to that Hakdari Sogi. So we can watch that line in the back of that air track and see where her head is here, and then see if it stays level. So we have that little drop down. So I'm sure once she sees it, she'll be able to adjust to that.
Yeah, this is a very common thing. A lot of athletes will do this. Come up in that crane stance, drop down, and the horse stance for the spins. Very hard to try and keep that really consistent, but it is what we do want to work towards.
And I don't think that she really needs to do that. Looks like she has pretty good balance throughout. So I don't think she needs to come up. She came up on that transition there. She looks like she's plenty strong and balanced and may not even need to do it. Maybe she's not even aware she's doing it. Maybe when she is aware, she'll fix that right away. Overall, her skill is pretty high. She gets a 7.36. I think that would have been much higher if she just stayed down a little lower. So imagine her potential with that Poomsae is quite high.
Definitely. And she's one of the most flexible people I know. So here we get to see some really nice high front kicks, basically no movement of her torso on those kicks. And she does need to boost up here just a little bit because I was looking at the cutoff right now. Again, 6 athletes left was a 7.395. So she's just underneath that. But if she can boost up here in the presentation, keep those nice long stances she's doing here, she might be able to boost up and then make it into the finals.
I think she's really going to need to power up to get that score that she's looking for. She's also quite petite, has a small frame, so she's really going to have to find a way to boost up that power, show that strength throughout the form. And I know she's given it her all, but she's going to have to be strategic with her coach, Dan Truong, to give her even more of a strong look. So she has 7.4, so a little bit of a boost on that. So finishes with a 7.380. She has kind of like a body type like Darcy or Ingrid Darcy, right, from Nicaragua. Kind of same thing. They both have that same challenge in this division with these, athletes that are a little bit taller and a little bit heavier, and so they're just going to have to find a way to boost it up. So up now is Vivian Vo from Quang Trung Martial Arts Institute.
And she's trying to stay really low here.
Doing a good job. I'm not seeing a lot of motion off of that support leg.
Vivian is also new to this division, 17, just aging up. And from Georgia, we've seen a couple of athletes from this dojang. I think she is able to put a little bit more power behind her motions, and so she just looks bigger in the screen. And I think she should do pretty well here. Again, that cutoff right now is a 7.395. Oh, so here we go, 7.4.
Yeah, she had a little trouble with that up-down motion as well, trying to stay low between that Hakdari Soyi on the transitions from that right wing to the center line and from the left wing to the center line. So you really got to be able to stay level, and then that score is going to boost up. You can see her even on these transitions kind of up in the motion when not necessary. Those look really strong. Same here, nice finishes on this line.
She has nice long legs, so she does have to work hard to stay low. But when we get those front stances to the side, especially on the top, it just looks really long and lean and very nice.
Yeah, so Vivian got a 7.4 on the first one, and now, yeah, she looked really strong on that one, 7.74. And she's going to finish with a 7.570.
준비.
Our next athlete is Cassidy Wallace from the Team M Community Poomsae program.
시작.
That knee might be a little bit low, not quite all the way up to parallel.
I think the more you bend the support leg, the easier it is to bring that upraised leg more parallel to the floor, right? So if there's not much bend in that support knee, it makes that knee dip a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that part, where she's at right now with her weight kind of in the middle, not fully bent and not fully straight, I think that's the hardest thing to balance. If you can go down a little bit more and bring the hips back, it's easier to balance. Or if you're all the way straight, of course, it's easier to balance. But in the middle there, that's a tough spot to navigate. Like you're kind of bent, but not all the way.
하나.
Good. I think stronger on the second half of the Poomsae than the first for Cassidy Wallace. So she's going to get a 7.2 for Kumgang.
시작.
Oh, she's got great height on those front kicks. They look really good.
And I remember Cassidy did female team a couple of years ago. I think it was 2019, went to the Wuxi World Cup for Poomsae, where I think she and her teammates got a bronze medal. Right now, she is 19 years old and she's studying at UC San Diego. And she's double majoring in biochemistry and human developmental sciences. So she also sounds like she has a pretty heavy academic schedule and still managing to find time to compete and improving both here Poomsae, although I think she also does freestyle Poomsae. She had an interview in one of the last sessions with her brother, and they did some kind of gymnastics in a past life.
She gets a 7.43, nice boost for Taegu Chiljang. And she finishes with a 7.315.
준비.
And up now we have Alana Kim from US Tigers
Stop.
Taekwondo.
We have just 3 athletes here left in the division. It looks like that cutoff is holding right now at a 7.395. But we have a couple athletes left, including Eva Sanderson, our international friend from Denmark. Alana, also her first year in this division. She's 17 right now, from Virginia. And her fun fact, Coach Brand, is your favorite fun fact. She loves bubble tea.
Yeah.
but she says her current favorite flavor is winter melon milk green tea.
Oh, wow.
Which sounds very fancy, and I haven't tried. And although now it's spring, do they have like a spring melon milk green tea?
Are you
What
a
happens
boba
to the
fan?
winter melon?
Really?
I do like it, but I wouldn't say that I could tell you the difference between good boba and like mediocre boba.
So you're more of a dabbler.
Yeah.
It's a 7.26. I'll stick with the kombucha for now.
You could just add some little boba pearls to your
That would be
kombucha.
actually a lot of
Stop.
fun. Yeah,
There
that would
you
be
go.
great. Yeah.
And Renee Zhao can help you teach you how to make them out of tapioca.
Just maybe send me some. That'd be good.
Alana's looking a lot stronger here on the opening of Chiljang than Kumgang. Maybe a little bit more confident. Had some good volume of motion on those hand techniques.
Well, who wouldn't, right? It's like, oh, I got through Kumgang. That's awesome. Ooh, she was right on the edge of that frame. Little heel pop on the transition.
Yeah,
I think
these-
everybody's ready to dig into Chiljang after they get through Kumgang.
바로.
She could extend her stances just a little bit, especially up at the top where we're seeing her so big
Sure.
on the screen.
차렷.
But overall, I think this was a better run than the first form, which had a pretty good score at that 7.26.
And she gets a 7.33. Yeah, I think she can easily drop just a little bit lower with her hips and most of those stances that, the front stance, Haktari, and horse stance. And I think she'll really feel more balanced. She ended up with a 7.295. And now we have Fengyi Liu from Team Champions in Long Island.
Another slight lean forward in the torso on these horse stances. You just really want to make sure. I think it was maybe Christina Throkeld held the same thing. Just a little bit of a lean forward. So make sure that you can get your hips tucked under and then let your back be very vertical and straight. Another
Up a little
rise and
high.
fall here.
Yeah, a little up high for her body type. She should feel comfortable right around there. She was at the right spot there when she came down and threw that punch. That's where she probably wants to live. So yeah, just keep it right there, right where she was in that horse stance. So when she makes a transition, she comes up a little bit. So just stay down there. Yeah, stay down there for everything on that
For the
line.
whole form,
Great.
just live in that squat.
6.83 for Fengyi Liu.
It's true. As Poomsae athletes, we have to have such strong legs. And it's not just the quads, which I think a lot of people think about, but the hamstrings have to be really strong to balance it out. And then being able to have a really strong core to keep those hips tucked under and stay low in those stances.
Yeah, and sometimes we think we're doing it, right? We feel like we're doing it, but we just got to get a camera on us to make sure that what we feel is actually what's happening. She started off with a really good right front kick, nice and high. It was a good way to start off. She got a little bit of that heel pop on that transition there, which a lot of our athletes have had.
But again, I just want to say how high the level of competition has been. That male senior 1 division, that cutoff, we left some really talented athletes in the semis as the top 8 go to finals. And here again with this women, the senior 1 group, they're just so strong.
And she's going to get a 6.93, so a little jump for her score from Kumgang. And she'll finish up with a 6.88. And we're now at our last competitor here with Eva Sanderson from Gangnam Sport Taekwondo in Denmark. She had such a great performance in the prelim round. It was just popping with the power. So I'm really excited to watch this one, especially with Kumgang, nice and low, really playing to her strengths. And a little up for her as well. Nice spin, nice and level.
She held on to that one nice and
Yeah,
low.
she sure did. Oh, she's going for that speed on that spin.
Pretty locked in there on that crane stance. Good even level.
Stay low. She came up a little bit and released it. You got to stay down. That right knee has to stay bent that same level on that turn. She released it and then tried to come back down. That makes it a little harder. But I'm expecting really high score.
Yeah, that was a really clean form.
Yeah. I mean, I could pick it apart, but yeah, 7.87. So that's close to, I think, what AJ get, 7.93. So real close here. Let's see how she does on Chiljang, if she can move herself up in the ranking here before the finals, so she get that top spot.
Right. So AJ right now has a 7.935.
Wow.
And then Karen in second place with a 7.8. So Eva's right there in between the two of them if she can hold on to it or boost up even a little bit.
Well, she definitely had the highest kicks here, I think, on that first line of Chiljang.
Nice clean heels on the transitions too.
Yeah. Boom, boom. Yes. Yeah, strong performance for Chiljang too. It's just, of course, up to the referees. But that was a nice, clean performance. So she got a 7.87 for the first Poomsae. And a 7.86 for the second. So it looks like she's going to be in second, maybe?
I think so, yeah.
So she gets a 7.865, but we'll finally get into some side kicks, right, in the finals?
Exactly.
Here are the standings so far. AJ Munoz in first, followed by Eva Sanderson from Denmark, Karen Rial, Haley Raw, Erica So, Christy Park, Yerim Jong, and Vivian Vo. That's our group for the finals in the women's senior 1 division.